Hello, everyone, and welcome to Called Anyway. This is the pilot episode of Called Anyway. This is our podcast. My name is Brooke Morris. I am a mom, wife, executive director, and founder of Ashland. We are a nonprofit in the human trafficking space in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I am more recently a writer. I think I'm a mogul, but to put it plainly, at the end of the day, I'm just a girl. And I'm just here to talk to everyone about the things that have fundamentally shifted my family, shifted my faith, and everything about me, but most importantly, about the events of the last 4 years. Ironically, I will tell you today is April the 8th of 2026, and it was exactly 4 years today that my sweet daughter was sex trafficked from a basketball game she was attending with her dad. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you have probably heard our story. I smile because there's so much happiness interwoven into the last 4 years. But alas, I believe I've been criticized before for smiling when I talk about this. So I will say my faith has been a cornerstone. I have grown more in the last 4 years on my walk with Jesus than I ever had in the 40-ish years prior to this event. I am closer now, I am understanding now, and I am able to see where he was with our family every step of the way. That's my faith. That's my faith. I don't know what you believe, but by the end of this, and if you stick around for more and more episodes, I think that you will be touched fundamentally by not just my story, but other survivors that we're going to interview and other people that are advocates in this space that are trying to help stop human trafficking. I mean, for the love, put us out of business. Make it to where there doesn't need to be nonprofits that are in this space helping survivors and doing outreach and all those fun things. Make it to where this is not a thing anymore. Stop buying sex. Alas, I will keep going. So the woman I was before 2022, I was working constantly. I was still a mom. I was coming off of COVID. COVID, ironically for us, for my family, my two kids, I say kids, they're more like young adults now. I think COVID, at least my son has told me, was a monumental time in his life. He has a lot of fond memories around it. I think just the four of us, my husband Kyle and my kids, Christian and Natalie, I think just kind of being cramped together in a house and not being able to leave and being sick and everybody, being scared of being sick. It was just this crazy, crazy time. But I think that was kind of where our story started. My daughter, Natalie, from the day she burst forth, she has always been a spitfire and a leader and so sweet and so kind, but such a pain in the neck, to quote the genie from Aladdin. But I will say she's also the absolute love of my life, and that was never more affirmed for me than when you think your daughter is gone and when law enforcement is telling you to essentially prepare for the worst. So this is a really hard topic, and I understand that, but I want you to know this is going to be a very warm and personal podcast. It is going to be a place where it's raw and it's just me talking. I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of education, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to speak from my heart and speak about my version of events, not tailored to any certain audience or having to be discreet because somebody may, clutch their pearls, but just be able to tell our story raw and in true form. So the moment that everything changed, it was April 8th, 2022. I was out of town with a coworker of mine. I say a coworker, but she's truly more like a best friend and an anchor in my life. We love you, Amanda. We were out of town doing girl things in Colorado, and my daughter was with my husband, Kyle, and they went to a Dallas Mavericks game. They had been to that game, been to games there multiple times in those exact seats. So they were both extremely familiar with where they were. And there was some jackass sitting above them in a suite that he had no business being in. And he and his little friends were watching my daughter the entire game with my husband. And at one point she left to go to the bathroom, and he pounced on that opportunity and passed her in the hallway and said something. And we could see later from camera footage at the AAC, he turned and, or she turned and she looked at him and she, what? And he said something else. And now I know it was more along the lines of, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to go smoke some weed? And her, Natalie, not knowing that, hey, if I leave this level, if I leave the stadium, I can't get back in. She thought he was just some cute guy and that he was at least semi-close to her age. She was 15 at the time. So she left. And moms out there, this is everything we always say. Don't talk to strangers. Don't leave with strangers. You need to be where you say you're going to be. Do what you say you're going to do. All of those things. She did none of that. So they left. And, the next 10 days are a blur. And I say a blur because even now, 4 years later, to the day, today, there's still gaps in her memory, shrouded by drug use and abuse that you and I cannot wrap our mind around. I truly think she can't wrap her mind around it, and that's why her brain is still protecting her to not remember. But yeah, she was trafficked around Dallas for multiple days, and then she was taken up to Oklahoma and sold there. And Oklahoma City Police Department, shout out to their Vice unit. I have said it before, and I will say it again. If you are ever missing, it is that Oklahoma City Vice unit that you want to come find you. They will find you. And they did amazing work, and it was Easter weekend, so all of them had every reason to not be working and to be at home with their families, and instead they were out combing the streets looking for my daughter. There were several undercover operations that I learned of after the fact that I thought, who would leave their family and their safety to go look for a girl from Texas that it's to law enforcement, unfortunately, it's just another runaway. I say that because, our daughter is a perfect little angel in every way, but I will also say she had her own struggles. In April of 2021, she ran away for the very first time, and she ran multiple times since then. She was trying to find herself, and I know, and she knows, and our family knows the reason she was running and what she was running to, because I believe people are running either to something or from something, but she was running to something. And if she ever found it, I don't know. But I can tell you she found something else, and that is life abundantly. And we're going to go into all of that. But yes, this broke us open in ways we did not expect. We went from truly just living our lives. We were trying to turn a corner with her and her behavior patterns, trying to, support our son, who at the time was in college. We were trying to run our businesses that my husband and I have. We were just literally living life just every day. But then when you have one of your pastors come sit in your living room the very next week and say, God, we hope you can shine a light to exactly where Natalie is, it just blows your mind. And there's so much to it. It's not just a straightforward answer. But this is very intentional. Some stories deserve more than a podcast episode, and that's why I'm here to do multiple episodes, not just on our story and what that looks like, but like I said, I want to highlight other stories as well. So what rose from the ashes? Ashland, my nonprofit. Ashland is spelled Aisling. People normally say Aisling, but it's Ashland. It is Gaelic and Irish for to dream. And the reason I named it that is because when we were in the emergency room in Oklahoma City, and talking to police officers and detectives about what my daughter had been going through these 10 days, I said, hey, this can't be a thing. Like, why are people buying and selling? Like, I was so naive. That's exactly what I was naive. I said, but this can't be a thing. How does this 15-year-old that doesn't even know how to drive get from Dallas to Oklahoma, and then she is sold for multiple days, and this is just this terrible, horrible thing, and then I'm learning that it's actually not so uncommon. And I said, we need to stop this. And it was my dad who looked at me, and he said, keep dreaming. And I think he meant keep dreaming in the sense of like, yeah, this is a thing. This has been around. Prostitution is the oldest job, if you will. But he said, keep dreaming. So we did. We did. We did keep dreaming. And if you know anything about me or my husband Kyle, you know that we do everything big and everything immediate. So we started our nonprofit. When our daughter was in recovery, she required a lot of outpatient treatment, inpatient treatment, therapies, wilderness programs, all of the things that you can imagine. And even then, I think it barely scraped the surface. But we realized very quickly that we were going to have to sell a kidney to be able to pay for this. And I realized, because I've been in healthcare for about 15 years, I realized this trauma-informed care that she needs should not be cost prohibitive. She went to a wilderness program, by the way, in Colorado. And I can tell you, it was so good. And I thought, oh my gosh, these wilderness programs are getting such a bad rap. Nobody wants to do it. There's all this abuse. But the one she did saved her life. Absolutely saved her life. And she went 1 week after her trauma. Everything in my body was telling me, no, she needs to be home with her parents. She needs to feel safe. She does not need to be gallivanting into the wilderness of Colorado and Utah. But alas, God had bigger plans. And we sent her, and I had no idea how it would just change her and change her heart. And I still to this day credit 4 years of her growth and sobriety back to that original wilderness program. But alas, I sat there and I said, I can name at least 5 adolescents, and I probably could have named more, but I could name 5 that could have directly benefited from that kind of program. But the cost was just so out of the realm of possibility. We had to cash in on our daughter's college fund. We took out a personal loan. And if it wasn't for the great work of Amanda, I mean, we definitely could have been looking at selling our businesses, but we made it through. We had help of family, and it all worked out. But that's kind of what it was, is we realized, hey, why is this so expensive? Why is this so hard? So we started Oshling. So we provide resources for survivors, for their families, if that is therapy, if that is a safe exit. We partner with other groups. So we understand that we are not really in the space to be in the rescue recovery realm. We are not going to be the ones kicking down doors, going in and grabbing your daughter and moving out, working with law enforcement. That just hits way too close to home for us. But we do work with a group that does. We also understand that while I have a clinical background, I am not a clinician. And there is a lot of healthcare follow-up that needs to happen for these survivors and their families. But we work with a group that does. There is an amazing outreach team in Dallas that is boots on the ground with ladies in the life that need love. You just have somebody to meet them where they're at and show them that there is another way. I am not built for that, but I know somebody who is. And I know somebody who will save your life when you're at the end of your rope. When you're sitting in a hospital room in Oklahoma, looking out over the horizon of Oklahoma City, thinking, my precious sweet baby girl is out there and I can't see her. I can't get to her. There was a failed raid, and now where is she? She is gone in the wind. Is she up in Tulsa? Is she down back in Texas? Is she in Mexico? Where is she? I know somebody that can save your soul. I know somebody who loves you more than anything and that died on the cross for your sins, and that will stand behind you when you're in her closet pulling out items that you're going to put in a baggie so that cadaver dogs can go and search for her, so that they have her scent and her DNA. The DNA proving that I am who I say I am, because her DNA matches who I say I am. But who I say I am is I am the daughter of a king, and I can introduce you to that king. But what's coming up for Ashland? What's coming up for Called Anyway? What's coming up for our life? You'll have to stay tuned to find out, but there are some really big things coming. I want to paint the picture of future episodes. We're going to be meeting with survivors. We're going to be meeting with advocates. We're going to be meeting with leaders in the space, leaders that are working with law enforcement, leaders that are working with survivors on the ground. And you're going to hear some great stories, and we are thrilled to have it. In the midst of it all, I'm going to be uncovering parts of our story. But I will say, I'm writing it all down, and when it's ready, you'll be the first to know. This is a journey, and this is going to be really enlightening and really fun. I hope it's fun. I hope that we can have a really dark, almost taboo topic be something fun that people can rally around and be excited for, and that we can find Jesus in the midst of it. And I'm going to be able to tell everyone every step of the way where we were, where I saw God's mighty hand. And I will start with this. I saw his mighty hand the clearest in April of 2021. My husband and I had unfortunately suffered many miscarriages. We tried IVF. That didn't work. So all the money went down the drain there. We poured too much time, money, and resources into trying to have a baby. We finally decided that we were going to adopt. That we went through COVID, trying to adopt, trying to get chosen, and COVID just really slowed things down, as you can imagine. But I thought, hey, the birth rate's going to go up because COVID, everybody's just hanging out inside. What better time for people to get pregnant? I will say we were chosen. We were chosen to be the parents of a sweet little baby boy that was to be born end of April 2021. We were so excited. The kids were so excited. We had been waiting for this. We had wanted this. We had put all the money in it. And we arranged everything. We arranged for, my last day of work. And then I was going to drive to Odessa where he was going to be born. And the next day, my husband Kyle was going to meet us out in Odessa. It was all set. It was all exciting. And the morning of my last day at work, I noticed that my sweet girl wasn't downstairs. She was 14 at the time. And I went up to her room, annoyed, because she didn't wake up. And I walked into her room, and her room was ice cold, and her dog was laying on her bed, didn't even lift her head up to look at me. And I noticed the curtains blowing in the breeze, like out of a movie, literally. And I leapt across her bed, and I looked down, and I thought, and there was a sheet hanging down, and I thought, has she hung herself? I was like, what? So I leapt over her bed, I looked, and there were pillows and a comforter and everything on the ground below. So she rappelled down the side of the house. So 14-year-old me was like, okay, I see you. But as a mom, I was devastated and scared. Couldn't find her. She was nowhere to be found. We called the police immediately. Our daughter has run away or she's been taken. I don't know which one it is. Police came over. It was all of the things. It also happened to be senior skip weekend. So our son was home because he was doing his senior skip day. Police were wondering why he wasn't at school. And that whole weekend, and we pretty much blurred out, we're supposed to be adopting this weekend. And one of my best friends, Stacy, she and I went to a house party that Saturday night to try to bust it up and try to find my daughter, Natalie. And we walked in, and all of these teenagers looked at us like we were crazy, but we walked in and said, has anyone seen this girl? And to this day, I think those teens are traumatized by these two ladies trying to act like much younger ladies. All that to say, the person that lived exactly across the street from the house party we were breaking up happened to be a caseworker at the adoption agency. I went over and talked to her, and she quickly realized who I was, right about the time I realized who she was. And she had all the right things to say about, I'm sorry your daughter's missing. Police will find her. She said all the right things. But the very next morning, as if our daughter missing wasn't enough, we got a call from the adoption agency that said, hey, we're canceling your adoption. And I begged and I pleaded and I was sad and I was angry. I said, we're obviously going through something right now, but that doesn't mean that we're not a fit family. We just couldn't wrap our head around that this amazing thing had failed. But never once did we blame Natalie. Fast forward, Sunday, she's found in Hillsboro, which is not even close to where we are. She was with some kids that they were just running away. They just wanted to go be adventurous. It just happened to be on the wrong weekend. And we got her back. and we did all the things. She was so grounded. But in the midst of it, the adoption agency telling us it was final, the baby had been born, this is not your baby. We realized that our worst day was someone else's best day. And we had to grieve that. We had to grieve the loss of that. And many people in our life would say, do you blame Natalie? Do you blame Natalie? And at the time, I was like, no, of course not. But I see God's hand in it now, because I see that He was pruning us. He was preparing us for a much larger loss down the road. But at the same time, I knew that I couldn't have Natalie and this other baby, and that this other baby was going to be loved anyway, and that there was a way for this baby. I was the way for this baby. So I had to choose, and I chose her, and I would choose her 1,000 times over, and I will choose her again and again and again. But it was the Lord that taught me that said, this is the one that needs you. This other one needs you too, but there's other resources for this one. This one's going to find a good home. This is going to be okay. This one needs you. It was like He was telling me, there's more to this than you know. That whole year, 2021, Natalie was in a really bad way, just trying to find herself, trying to figure life out. So she continued to run here and there. We put her in a boarding school. We tried different therapy modalities. We tried everything. But a lot of what she was running from was her own guilt and shame, because she felt responsible for our failed adoption. That whole year, God was pruning and preparing us for April of 2022. I believe that fundamentally, because the level of panic we had the very first time she ran away, had we had that level of panic when she was taken from the Mavs game, we wouldn't have been as successful. But there's more to come on that. So I just want to encourage everybody, please stick with me. Please attend other episodes. This is going to be really great. And I thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.